Hello there. Welcome to another drawing video. And as you can see, I have my support ready. I have my charcoal paper and I have it charged up with a little bedding of charcoal. And it's a little bit coarse, and I thought it'd be interesting to see what I can do with that semi-textured background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan to the left, and you'll see what we are going to venture into. What we have is our subject for today, our actor, the talent. In this case, it's going to be a pear. Now, this is an artificial pear, and if you want to try using real fruit, nature's fruit, God's fruit, I think you should. Just be careful about how food can attract bugs and stuff if it's there overnight. Let's take a look at what we have. We have the stage, the setup. In a previous video, I discussed how to get something set up like this. And let me reach over here. We have the light. The way I have the light is coming right at it and dividing it in half. So one half of it is illuminated in light, and the other half is pretty much in darkness. And this is the classical lighting situation. And this happens before what's known as Baroque art. And we can get into these kinds of differences later. So let's take a look at what we have. I will venture to draw some of the texture of the marble slab. I also have this. Now, this is our value scale that we made in a previous exercise. And what I did was I sprayed it with something that's called clear coat, and then I cut it and I put it in a Office Depot sleeve. You see that? Now, why am I doing this? Because we are going to use this to help navigate value. And what you can do is objectify the information before you by this type of ruler. So, for instance, you can ask yourself, what value range do I have? And in particular, what value does, like, say, the base tone, this is called a base tone, of my pear. And so let's look at that right now. We're going to do this right now in real time. Is it a 10? Is it a 20? Or is it a 30? What you do is you want to take a range of 3 values and kind of slide it across the area that you're curious about. And so I don't think it's going to be anywhere in this area. I think it's going to be somewhere in this area. So let's just take a look at this. So I'm sliding it. I think it's somewhere between the 30 and the 10. So it's sliding it around because I don't think it's going to be at 40. So sliding it around here. Let's figure out what you think it should be for the base tone. And I'm going to point it with the corner of my Office Depot plastic sleeve here. See that right there? So I'm going to also recommend that you squint and do this. This is closer to a 20%. That would be closer to a 5% or a 0. And then here, let's do this right now in real time. I'm kicking my light stand, and I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can see it. Sliding it across these 3, or maybe across these 3. It's a little bit awkward. Maybe if I just do that, you see that? Rest it down there. It's probably better. And I'm gonna think that it's somewhere between a 70 and an 80. Okay. Now the reflected light would be over here behind, and that's gonna go down a notch to like a 60. So you have the 5 and 0 for the highlight. We have a 20 for the base tone, and then for the core of shadow we're having somewhere between a 90 or an 80, and then reflected light's like a 70. That's what I was getting out of it. And so what happens is I can either make a note of that or memorize it. Let's zoom in. And so that's our subject. Okay, let's see what we have. I hope to do a lot of this where you can watch it, and sometimes I'll have to cut it and just move the video along. So first of all, I'd recommend to get the angle of the pear. So instead of just panning the camera back to the pear, I'll show you what I mean right here. I hold a stick or a ruler, and I get the angle of the pear from the top of the pear to the base, middle of the base. So I've done that, and I've gotten an angle that looks like this. I'm going to put the pear basically in the middle. And what I did was decide to do the measuring technique, but not with a piece of paper, but with this. And so what you do is you hold your hand outward like that, and the top of the pear is going to be the top of this pencil, and the bottom of the pear is going to be where my thumb is. Now, if I were to take this and come over here like that, I have a teensy weensy pear. So what you got to do is multiply it by 2. So we're going to make a drawing that's in a scale of 1 to 2. I think this is it. Yeah, so let's go with that. 1 to 2. Okay. So I could figure out roughly that the pear is going to be from here to here, but now I can measure it. I'm literally going to measure it. You see this? 1 and 2. So I'm doing that. So I start out with a line, and now I can get the width of this guy. And the widest part of the pear, and you can see my hand is right in front of you, right? So I'm doing that for the widest part of the pear. And so what I'm going to do is double up how fat he is. So I go like that, and I go like that. Some of us might want to make a box to put that in. Remember how we talked about enveloping and boxing things in? Now you can do something like that. It's like nothing goes outside of that box. Now when you do this, make sure that you don't move from where you're standing, and make sure your hand is straight out, and your elbow is extended and your arm is flattened like that. And so you don't want to lean in and lean out. You just want to stand and easily get your proportions. So, and then I recommend double checking. And the thing is, I'm not so what's the word? Anal? I'm like very exact in my approximation, because we're visual artists here. You know, we don't want to worry about taking a ruler right to this thing and then coming over here. We kind of want to have some type of a, you know, fluid kind of thing going on here. So I'll guide you through what I was doing. First of all, I established the angle, and I made a line. Then I found where the widest part of this guy is, somewhere down here, and I guesstimated that. Remember I said sometimes you should try to eyeball things? Once in a while it's good to mix what you eyeball and what you measure. Go with that flow, and you decide what you can measure and what you can eyeball. So right now I just eyeballed the line that bisects this first vertical line, so with a horizontal line, and then I measured this from here to here, and then I brought it over there. So I have like an upside down, kind of like an upside down cross, and then I made my box. Now I have to measure from here to here. We're going to measure that stem of the pear. So how do I do that? I pretty much have like a, you can have like a little mark or a tape that you are indicating where your feet are planted in your space. So I just look down and say, okay, I'm right back where I was. I didn't show you that I did that, but take my word for it. So now I'm just going to measure with my thumb, the bottom. Can you see that? The thumb, the bottom of the stem to the top of the stem. So now you're just going to see my arm because I have to get the right position in relation to the subject. And then I come over here. Now remember, what is it? It's not 1, it's 2. So it's something like that. So technically, my little roly-poly pear should fit in here, and this is the top part of our stem. Now we can do the Charles Barg technique of hacking in diagonals. And so I'm gonna bang this out, and then we'll see what the heck we're trying to do in relation to the pear. You'll see how it connects to the pear right there. This is a very good technique, and I swear by it. And you have to understand, like, when early part of the 20th century into the 19th century, people were relying on people to show what the world is like, visually speaking. And you go before that to the 1700s, 1600s. We were the cameras. And one of these times we should look at some art of that era. You know, and so far I recommend looking at Renaissance art and Baroque art. Those are the two I want you to look at. Renaissance art and Baroque art. Just look at them. Just look it up and just look at them. We could talk about them in detail later. And then what I do is when I start talking about composition, I sometimes show the dichotomy between a classical arrangement versus a Baroque arrangement. Okay, so now comes the stem. Now, you notice how this is the vertical axis point or line. It doesn't mean that the stem has to go like that. That just shows you the angle of the pear. And so you gotta get the angle of the stem from the source. It's a very humble drawing, and there's a lot of negative space. Now, what is negative space? Negative space is the background, the air, and then positive space is the subject, the fruit. Another way of looking at it is this is the figure and this is the field. Well, there's a lot of field and not enough figure. We're not really talking about composition. We're just talking about drawing our first object from life. That's what we're doing today. Take a look at what we have now, and you'll see that recap, we have the vertical line and a diagonal, and then the widest part, well, actually I kind of went off on that. The widest part is over here. So you see how I corrected myself in real time. You know, we are very, very much self-regulating and correcting animals, and so that's how we get better, is by oh yeah, okay, this is the way, this is the way. So that's all. The measurements still concur though for here and here. This was almost like filler, like my mistake. But here it is, upside down cross, and then we boxed it in, and then we have this section like that, and then I indicated like where the shadow should be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the camera, and then I'm going to do the following. I'm going to reinforce with the HB, or you can use a 2B charcoal pencil, preferably sharper than this, to define this out. Okay, let's do that. I wanted to show you this in real time, just for the fun of it. So remember how we talked about this technique. I reinforce my vine charcoal study and get the finished product. And notice the angles, diagonals. Maybe you might want to review the PowerPoint that shows the School of Design technique. You'll see how very parallel my approach to drawing objects is to his work. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, and I don't think I'm going to show you this, I'm going to reinforce the background. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go with our familiar arrangement, or very dark up here, which is back in space, and as I come down to you know, closer to what's called the picture plane, this is the picture plane, it's going to be lighter. And then I'm going to start drawing in the details of the marble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all of that, and then I'm going to get into the pear. So you see what I did? I charged up the background with this compressed charcoal. This ain't the Conte crayon, I promise. This time I keep picking up the Conte before I remember. And this is a soft. And so soft is in the range of your 5B into the 6B and stuff like that. I'll do a little bit of this with you. Like I said, I want you to see a lot of this, but I don't know about some of my videos have gotten to be over an hour. What if we were going to be like illustrating the Siege of Troy? How many hours would it take for us to do that, right? So and I think that the more expert you become, like if you follow this program, like from video 1 to whatever, maybe I should number my videos. That's not a bad idea. You gotta remember again, this you're seeing me do this, like I'm piloting, you know, the program here. You know, if I'm making like a series, you know, this is my pilot. You know, this is the first time I'm doing all these things. Now, this ain't the pilot because I've already done a few, but I say overall, this is my first wave of videos. In a sense, I still feel like it's a pilot. You know, I'm just really feeling my way. And I know that if you get on YouTube, you'll see all sorts of superior deliveries. You know, the technology and all that, and just knowing how to make expert social media videos. I'm just, you know, chugging along. But I hope that, like, you get information from it. Like, this is supposed to help somebody, especially if you're in my class. I mean, that's what this is initially about. It wasn't for my school offering to do an online class. I don't even think I'd be doing this. So I think that, you know, I learned something, you know, and it's all good. So how, you know, what are we going to do with that? Is that all we're going to do? So I figure it's good for me to show you what else we're going to do here. And so when you're in the area of proximity to your subject like this, I recommend getting a big old blender like this. And I recommend kind of standing at arm's length while you work on your work. Like sometimes I want to get all inside here like that. And when I was a teenager, I was always wearing glasses. You know, I always had an eye problem with my eyes. I'm nearsighted. And so I always got into detail. So I just put my face into my drawings. So, you know, it took me a while to make myself do this, stand back. And a part of that was when I started doing easel art. Everyone has their own story. And it somehow might come out of in your art. All right. What I want to do is continue with this idea here. And looking at this, boy, you know, there's a lot of stuff that could have been addressed, like making it bigger. You probably want to make this is what's bad right off the bat. Like, this video has this pear as a teensy weensy little thing. You might want to make yours a little bit bigger. But I think that this is not a poor pear. The reason why it's successful is because it encourages the learner to pay attention to the background. A lot of people just will draw their subject, whether it's a pear, a partridge, you know, and you know, Little Miss Muffet, you know, whatever it is you're going to draw over here. We usually just draw the subject, and we don't care about the background. And this is what people are trying to do. I see it all the time. Like someone will show me a drawing of a comic book character, and the first thing I notice is there's nothing surrounding the comic book character. It's just the comic book character, like Batman or Spider-Man. And I'm a very classic Marvel comic kind of a guy, so I always talk in those terms. Well, Batman's DC, right? So DC is fine too, you know. Those two are pretty much, I think, in terms of that, those two universes. So, like, I'll have a student show me a Batman or a Spider-Man or, you know, a Hulk, and there's no background. It's just a character, and it's not their fault. It's just somehow we're just programmed that way. You focus on a particular thing, and that's what you do, and to run off on tangents, hopefully not too much. Our eyes are always scanning, and if you look at what scanning means, it means that it's looking for something to zero in on. Originally, it might be a predator, or it might be prey. See, so we're scanning, and we're also doing something in our brains. We're selecting information. We're very much editing what we are being barraged with through our senses, and we are editing. So you have somebody who wants to draw something, and if they subconsciously just carry that tune to the nth degree, and so they're just going to draw the pear. They're not going to draw the background. So what are we doing in my class? We're shading and emphasizing the background first. So you're working with the field, and then you'll do the figure. Get into the atmosphere. Like I said, sometimes I should just be quiet and just draw and you just watch. Maybe this video will be longer than an hour, maybe 2 hours. Maybe not. I think that I have to cut it off. Like if I have a 2-hour video, I edit it to part 1 and part 2. Drawing the pear, part 1. Drawing the pear, part 2. You never know. As I blend with the blender, I'm doing horizontal and vertical strokes like that. Now, I'm not using the chamois cloth. If I were to use the chamois cloth, look what it does. It can take it to the white. If I use the cotton rag, it somewhat takes it to the white, but not as much as the chamois cloth. If I take the brush to it, it's more palatable to our needs. Even the kind of like the over lap of the charcoal dust on the pear, I think it's kind of neat. There's other things you can use to blend. You might be able to find other things that I'm not talking about, and you can experiment with it. One might be a cotton swab, or I believe that we already did that, right? This is a cotton swab right here. So a cotton swab, or a ball of cotton. A cotton swab or a wad. of cotton. A cotton swab or a cotton wad. So give it a try. Play around with these things. I'm doing a little bit of a circular motion over here, so I might as well make mention of that. That seems to work for micro blending, little areas of blending. Let's call that micro blending. I snuck in while you were not looking a little bit of the shadow here, and I'm gonna continue with that theme. I hope I'm not in your way, so I'm gonna get in here and get this shadow. Again, there's 3 parts to the charcoal. You have the side, the edge, and the tip. So try to find out what part works for what. You gotta remember that this class is for the beginner, and it's also, I call it part of the Catechism of Drawing. And what I mean by that? Universalism applied to drawing. So I was talking to my friend, saying, hey, you know, if I was teaching this class, like say another part of the world, I'd be doing the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what nationality you are, what language you speak, or what you believe in terms of your spirituality. When I learn to draw, this is what I know, and I push that. And so I call it the Catechism of Drawing. Now, when you start getting into what I call stylized drawing, that's a whole different animal. So what I'm saying is, this is not the only thing there is to do with drawing. Not by a long shot. I am tempted to use my pinky. I'm trying to show you good habits. So let's play with our little blender, which is the Q-tip swab. Now, when you use the swab, I wouldn't press too much. It's kind of like advantageous to go like this. You just brush against it like that. Try not to force. Like, I can't blend that out. Don't force it. I mean, I could try with my pinky, and I can almost get it to work. But be careful with that. You get the grease of your hand in there. To be a little bit more forceful, you might want to go in with this. And I'm getting the direction of the shadow from how the light is pointed to the pear. That's what creates the diagonal philosophy of the shadow. Almost picked up the Connie again. I might have taken some liberty for the shadow, but I'll try to be a little bit more faithful to what I'm looking at. This is a type of exercise, and you're training your eye hand, and also with drawing, consider it a form of concentration exercise. You're forced to concentrate without even knowing it. Consider this. How long have you ever stared at a pear? Well, if you're taking an hour to draw this thing, and let's just say half the time you're looking at the pear, the other half you're looking at your drawing. That means for a half hour you've stared at a pear. Now I don't know if that's the right figure. Maybe you're spending more time looking at your drawing than your pear. But that's just, you know, to give you an idea. So you're going to discover things, and you would not have maybe discovered those things before looking at it and trying to draw it. What things are we talking about? Well, one thing is the texture of things. And the texture is usually called the surface texture. The pear has some bumpy areas that I didn't pay attention to before until I actually started just to draw it. Might want to reinforce some more blackness there. Some bald areas, slightly balding areas. Gotta take care of that. Like a nice velvety black. One of the things about making bold drawings is to have that dark treatment, but the idea is a contrast with light areas. Like you might not want to have the whole thing all dark. Again, kneaded eraser. So I'm kind of like drawing with my kneaded eraser. I'm doing what's called subtracting. There's some kind of a sheen to the marble, and I'll show you what I'm trying to do here. I'll explain what this is. I'm going to do my pinky again. No, it's okay. So what we have here is something very interesting. The pear, the marble slab, the shadow, then what's that black thing? Turns out that that is the reflection of the pear from the marble. And I'm going to try to do that for this part. I'm going to get into that almost immediately. Kind of making some black serration marks, and you'll see why. Getting a little bit creative on you guys, a little bit, just a little bit. Sometimes your drawing will speak to you, and it'll say, try this, and you should just try this. Again, compressed charcoal. Maybe a little bit more sharper than that, to be honest with you. What you do is you hold it to the side though, and you'll retain the tip. Try not to have it come right straight at it, like a woodpecker. Unless you're doing some stippling maybe. Even with that, people say to the side. Again, use the eraser to kind of like cajole the shape of your forms. In this case, I'm gonna move the shadow up a little bit in here like this. See, we're really, you know, this is a very important part of the drawing. In a way, drawing can serve as a form of meditation. I also recommend you still do some of your blind contour that we've talked about previously. Like that's the first week we do that, and then when we kind of forget about it. The idea is to keep doing it, like warm-ups. Do some more blind contour. Like every time you want to draw, do like a 15-minute session of blind contour. At least. And that's hard, you know, for me to even say, because I'm kind of like a hypocrite. Do I do that every time I paint? No. But I do a lot of studies. And, you know, there's a lot of other ways that I prep. But as a student, you know, I think that we are obligated to try these things. I want to now venture into some subtraction to get into the activity of the marble, and I'll have to show you, you know, cut back and forth between the subject and the art. And so trust me on this. I will show you that in a minute. Let me just bang this out. So I'm actually drawing with the dirty tip of the blender. See that? It's kind of weird, right? I can kind of do that right here like that. Marble activity. Now watch this. I know that that's not correct. And so what we can do is the following. Chamois cloth before eraser. Soften it up a little bit. And then here I can do the same thing. This black vein does not extend that much. Kind of stops there. So I'm using the chamois cloth now to really bring this out. Kind of got messy here. Woo. Sometimes you'll have something that's almost perfect. You're going to ruin it, you know. Now watch this. With the chamois cloth, I'm going to try to come in with this marble texture. Again, you'll have to see what this is. I'll show it to you. So you can see the activity of the marble and what I'm trying to replicate. And you can see the reflection of the pear on the marble slab. So I kind of cropped the top of the composition off on purpose because we're going to focus on this area right here. Now I got some compressed charcoal pencil. Compressed charcoal, and I'm going to switch over from compressed charcoal to charcoal pencil. That's what I meant to say. And so I can switch back and forth. See, a lot of work goes into this, you see, and I didn't even start drawing the pear yet. Now I'm using an HB, which might be a little bit too hard. We'll see how it goes, because I don't want to get it all black and stuff. I just want to flirt with the texture of the marble. Kind of creeps around like this, like that. See that marble. So you've seen like some of the black vein work, right, on this gray slab of marble. And it's kind of like a soft toned black. So a velvety soft tone though, like a dark gray black. So the HB is good for that. And it's really clean feeling as it moves along the surface of this paper. And maybe that is good for the characteristics of marble. And put my hand away. My left hand is behind my back or in my pocket because otherwise it'll be like this. So it's kind of an awkward way to draw, you know. You want to be more relaxed, and like you could, if you're a left-handed person, you'll have like, you know, you go like that, you know, like this, that kind of thing. Right-handed, we're going like this, like that. So always have this in arm's reach, at arm's reach. So again, I really wanted to show you, like, you actually get the chance to actually see me draw a lot of these little areas instead of me turning off the camera all the time. If we're to do another fruit, I'd probably do a lot faster. I'm thinking out loud, should I also draw an apple? Because you're going to be drawing a pear and an apple. Because it's the same lesson, but with a different fruit. Wait till we get into something like perspective. Whoa. You know, for the longest time, I would omit perspective in my drawing classes. For the longest time, I had it. Because I've been close to teaching like 20 years. And then, actually it is 20 years. Because it's like, I started in 1999. That's like 21 years, right? 20 years? Oh, 21. So, but like for a couple of years, like 3 years straight, I omitted the perspective lessons because, to be honest with you, it was a really difficult time. You know, perspective is not easy. And you might be able to draw this quite well, and then when you start messing with perspective, you're like, wow, I don't get it. And it's strange. So I've come up with different ideas to tackle that problem, and I think that I'd be remiss if we didn't do it this semester. So we'll see how that works. So there it is. See that? Kind of a nice ripply effect that I'm actually getting from my reference here. It's almost like a ripple effect. It's really cool. Now I probably need a darker utensil. Going for a 4B here. And I still insist on preserving the fidelity of that shape of the pear down here. Don't want to lose that. So the striations I made over here that are abstract or made up from my own mind kind of correlate to the veins in the charcoal. I mean, the veins drawn in charcoal in the marble. So I kind of unite the two things by doing that. Like, I try not to omit my mistakes. You know, I make a few mistakes when I'm speaking. Like if I were to say George Washington was the second or third president of the United States, yeah, I'm going to pretty much omit that. But as you can see, we're beginning to create a sense of depth. Do you feel it? How it recedes as it goes back into space? Now what I'm doing here is, I got more marble activity going on here. This marble activity, this vein, I first established it using my vine chalk like this. And then I'm going to come in here with first this lighter charcoal, being an HB. Kind of just feel how it goes. Notice how it's not that dark. But you'll see what I'm going to do after. So be patient with me. I want you to see this. The crack is not at the right angle, but here's a point of concern. Maybe the learner should change it because you're learning how to get everything exact. But sometimes I say, nah, just leave it. You know why? Because it looks really neat. In the end, we're making drawings, and the drawings are supposed to rest on their own laurels. They are supposed to be self-defining. In other words, you've made a work of art. A drawing of a pear is not a pear. It is a drawing. So it's something different from the thing that you are trying to draw. Kind of gets into the philosophy of art. And I'm one of those people that think philosophy is very important. So I switched over from the right to the left hand because it's just easier for me. I'm going to try that sometimes. You know, like I'm going to try using both hands. Can you do it? So you see how that's coming? And it's still not done just yet, but because I'm going to add some darker tones there. But let's just kind of create more, you know. And again, I'll have to show you with the camera when we're done. I sometimes don't know what I'm going to come up with, you know. There's always elements of surprise. And that's what's cool about drawing. Doesn't matter what you're drawing, you're still going to have elements of surprise. See how now comes the darker tone. So notice how this is not monotone. I used HB. Now I'm going in with the 4B. You could have also gotten away with a 2B. And I like there's a little like speck right here floating like that. It's kind of neat. Sometimes I do this, you know, like that. And I sometimes use my pinky. Like I won't lie, you know. You see what I'm doing, you know, and so I admit. But I don't do it for the whole thing. I don't, you know. I don't think I want to do that. Okay, we can play around with this now. The pear reflection. You know, from a different angle, this is supposed to be to the left further, but then over here, it winds up overlapping with it. It's just. Some people are they recommend, well, just like change it. Like if you don't like something, change it. Like because it's staged, and that's fine and good. I'm gonna change something right here. You see what I'm doing? I eliminated the black of that reflection, and I had to bring it down. It needed to be brought down considerably. That's why you don't want to rush into these things. You want to tease yourself a little bit and do your studies and draw in there. You know, if you come in with black immediately, you have to erase it. But notice with the technique that we're using, if you replicate the materials that I'm doing, you'll be able to do like what I'm doing here. I don't have to take the eraser. I just nudged it out with the Q-tip. Kind of neat, huh? So now this philosophy will continue along with that. The pear reflection. That's right. We're actually going to draw the reflection of the pear. How cool is that? And you're going to see it right before your eyes. Now what I would recommend before I get into there is to be taking advantage of the following subtraction technique. It's not as noticeable But you'll see how the subtraction technique will help you a lot even in this demo. So now let's continue this philosophy with this here. I want the values of this to be darker than the values of that because that's the reflection of the pair. Made some horizontal marks like that, which might be too visible, I'm not sure. We can always tone them down later. Now I'm going to come in here and work this in, work it in. Maybe I want to figure out where the shadow, where the lighted area and the darkened area is, so something like that. And I can go like that. I'm shading vertical or horizontal right now. I don't recommend doing the cross contour here because this is a reflection. You're kind of making the cross contour of the shape of this, but when you're drawing the pear, you might want to go like that and go around the cross contour shape of the pear. So the surface of this is different than that, and so it should show when you're drawing. A lot of things I guess it's my job to tell this to you. Why didn't you tell us, man? So yeah, I gotta tell you. So you see how this is going. The reflection of the pear. Really get into this, gang. I mean, I spent hours of just drawing like this when I was younger, and then when I was in school. It's just, you know, we would pay a model at art school and just meet up, and the serious artists would just draw. And it wasn't for a credit; it was just for our own betterment as artists. There was one guy who was an illustrator for National Geographic. He'd show up, and we were like, "Who's this guy?" And and he goes, "Well, I'm just doing this just to strengthen keep up my chops. You know, it's musicians talk about chops, you know." And he goes, "That's why I'm doing this. I'm a paid artist. I illustrate for National Geographic." Pretty neat. So we would just draw the figure. And you know, I encourage you to do that. I mean, we have the internet, and people just get on the internet, and it's like, well, it's not the same. I'm sorry. To me, the internet is a tool, I think, to meet people. And there's a website called Meetup, and so you get on the internet, go to Meetup, and find where people are doing things like meeting up and drawing at somebody's house, or maybe at a coffee place or something like that. You never know what you'll find. I used to do that all the time. I was always drawing a figure at least once or twice a week throughout art school when I was a grad student. When I was an undergrad student, I was more in my head, and I took all the requirements and included figure drawing, so I did all that, but I never incorporated it in my art. But as I became a graduate student, I really wanted to bone up on my figure drawing skills, and by that time I wanted to teach art. When I went to grad school, I wanted to teach art, and so that's probably another reason why I go, well, I should probably get into this. And sure enough, it helped me with my own personal stuff. As you can see, I had some problems. So what I did was I eliminated the black vein that was right here, and I pushed it to the left. And the more I looked at my still life setup, it's closer to what was happening there anyways. So I think it might have been because I shifted my body more than once as I was trying to record where the reflection of the pear is in relationship to the vine, the marble vein. And so we have to sometimes stop and just absorb what we're doing and check it off. So now I recommend to go right in to the dark areas first. Like I did for the background, I attack the dark and then I move into the light. But before we do that, we can strategically figure out where the core of shadow is. And I think I have to show you this, because I am teaching you in this drawing video. I'm not just drawing in front of you. So notice how I have 1, 2, 3 areas. I don't really indicate where the highlight is because then I have a black outline. So we're going to hold off on that. So I have 3 areas, right? Now let's look at our pear. So you can see 3 areas, correct? 1, 2, and then the reflected light area is 3. There's 3 areas. I'm holding the camera by hand. So now you can see it, right? 1, 2, 3 areas. I believe I might have to keep it at that distance because we're going to work into the pear now. And we could try this because it's subtraction. I'm going to lightly indicate where I think the highlights will be. And I might have to have my support stick. Little highlight there. See how that put that there. Okay. A note about my arrangement, when I'm drawing on my drawing, I can't see my pear. What you might want to do is have your pear right adjacent to your paper. So you can just kind of visually drag. And I can do that. I might be able to do that drawing on this board and sitting down. Maybe I can do that with you some other time. I just prefer to do it this way. It also makes me focus on some memorization. There's short-term memory and long-term memory. So I look at this, but then I have to remember what I saw and I have to put it here. And this is something that a lot of us artists are doing all the time. Usually it's because we're forced to. But I hope you get something out of this video. You know, I feel like I'm always learning. Because when I teach in my classes, I always tell them to have, I always say have your drawing right next to your object. Because we're beginners. And then later on, you get to do what I'm doing, where you might have your subject a little bit off a ways from your easel to where you have to turn your head to get the information and then go back and forth, that kind of thing. Like the way I'm working is very common. There's nothing uncommon about what I'm doing at all. But for the learner, you might want to just follow what I said, having the easel and your drawing board right next to your pear or your other subject, and then you just draw from there. And you can just look and scan easily, or pan easily, and it's more immediate that way. Kind of like when you did the drawing of the male that I gave you to draw, right? So you can see how this is already coming together, isn't it? And I, you know, like what I do is I kind of section off my areas. Like I strategize that way and say, okay, I'm going to focus on this area right now, and just kind of like hone in here and get it to go. I have a pear salad to go. I might be in the way. I might be in the way. I'm sorry if I am. Try not to be. See, I'm using the eraser to kind of draw. Now there's a weird shape in the pear, like there's an indentation here that has to be respected. And then up here, it needs to be a little bit more exercised. Like that and like this. See how I'm switching to the pencil? Because I can zero in on my needs. See that right there? I need to go here. Like that. And again, I always make these little mistakes. So this pear stem has to be right over here. I have to pull it to the left. And I try not to fake it, you know. I go, well, I don't like that. I gotta fix that. And I go like this, and I go like this. So what I do is I widen the stem like that and make it fatter than what it really is. And then I can always bring it back down like this. Again, I have to get in your way because I have to really get this to go. And then so now I'm going to come over here. See how that is? Let me get a darker pencil. This here goes away. And it goes like that. See, there's a lot of disciplinary measures that you experience when you're drawing these little objects, these still lifes. You learn a lot, and it helps develop patience, especially that you're trying to draw from life. My God, this is not the same as drawing from a photograph. Huge difference. You're exercising muscles, quote unquote muscles, when you're drawing from life that you might not be exercising when you're drawing from a photograph. That's one way of looking at it. So I don't know about that stem. I have this like smoky thing next to the stem. I don't know if I like it. So so you're seeing me in real time, just kind of like, nah, I don't know if I like that. So let me do something else. So what am I going to try to do? Reflected light is going to happen. It's very minute. You might even find yourself, you're doing like really detailed work, taking a magnifying glass to your paper or your canvas if you're painting, and you got to paint under a magnifying glass. Now you're really getting into it. Salvador Dali used to use a magnifying glass and he would paint some of his meticulous detailed areas. I feel like a schlub next to some of those people, you know. The idea is to really just kind of push yourself, say, okay, I'm going to try that. You know, I went to Michael's the other day to buy these props for a class, and lo and behold, I saw some pretty interesting magnifying glass setups, and you can clamp it onto your desk. And it was for $99, you know. So I can probably get it, you know. But you see, I have the core of shadow and the reflected light to flesh out the stem, and it looks a lot better. And we're not done yet, but you see how we're doing this. You know, we're teasing in here. We're working a part at a time after getting the whole established. And so the idea about going back and then wrapping around into the front field, wrapping around into the figure, I think it's a nice way to work. And you know, try to keep that consistency. And the thing is, gang, like, you can't just do one pair. Say, okay, I've done my pair. You might have to do a couple. You know? No. You know, it's how else can you get better? It's like you're making your value scale, you might have to do it twice. Right? So there's certain things you have to do twice, 3 times. You know, how else can you know, pin it down? You know, when you're riding a bike, you know, remember you were a kid, you had training wheels, take off the training wheels and start riding your bicycle. You know, you go down the the sidewalk and you just kind of fall. It's like, well, I did it. You know, at least I tried. Well, you keep on trying until you actually get it right. Same with the guitar. You know, we're all adult learners here. You know what I'm talking about. So with drawing, how do you do it? Well, you just got to get another paper and piece of paper and draw it again. I don't know how else to explain it, and I wouldn't know how else to do it myself. And believe me, I draw, you know, like anything more than once. If you see anything in my portfolio, I guarantee you I did that more than once. Maybe not the composition more than once because I discovered it as I did that painting, but the stuff in the painting I might have done it more than once. Especially people and animals, you know. Demos, I've done these demos a lot of times, and you know, I still can do better. I still think that I can do better. You know, it's like I can do that better. I don't like that area. You know, so here we got the stem, and it's not completely done, but it's close. The idea is to give it the fidelity that you think you can give it. Don't hold back. I'm kind of cleaning my tip there on the side of the... Another reason why this paper is good, I can go like that. You see that? I can also make notes. And eventually you got to discard this paper. So I made notes 1 to 2 scale. Remember how I did that? So I made notes of that. You know, that's a good way to work. You know, I wouldn't go into that with you if I thought it was not worth it. Doing the board and then a paper cushion buffer between your artwork and your board. I really think it does help. Well, I think that I gotta lighten this up a little bit. And I don't fake it, you know, it's like I think I gotta work on that and work on that. Just keep working on it. Like that. I know I usually say go to the darkest parts first. In this case, I did the subtraction first. And that's fine. Now we're gonna go into the darkest parts right now. So I'm gonna just put this stick down. I might want to get it at a 80. So we could take this, and I held it next to the pear, and it was, and see the thing, you can tape this like that, and you can kind of compare, you know, you can have this here to bring it down to here, and here it's like an 80 to a 90. See that? That's where it's at. See that? There we go, 90. So it's a pretty good thing to have. Put that there for now. Squint a little bit. When you squint, you just see the main shapes and value. Because psychologically your brain is drawn to all this detail, and so you gotta get the whole as opposed to all the individual parts. And try different things. Like I'm going to use my brush. Now how I do it, I don't go like that. I go left and right, you know, or I go up and down like that. I kind of go around the shape of it. Come in here like this, avoiding contact with the highlighted area to the left. See that? Some people say, okay, I'm done because I got the highlight, the coarse shadow, reflected light. But you see, that's a symbol of the pear, but that's not exactly how it looks. So we have to be concerned with that. So let's make it look like what it looks like, not just what it says in terms of a symbol. See the difference? It says reflected light, core of shadow, but it doesn't feel like it. When it feels like it, that means because you're getting it representationally down. You want to make it feel like it, not just say it. Have to mean it, man. This is tricky because this is saying that the shadow is not as dark as what's underneath here. And the reason why is because this is a mirror type surface. It's not a mirror per se, but it's a reflective surface. So we got this to deal with. A little bit lighter because it's a reflective surface. And I got to come in here with the shadow. Like that. Pretty tricky. Some tricky stuff going on here, gang. Hope you can manage to do this. And I think you will. I think you'll do good. But to get the effects, the results that I'm doing, you should use the same materials. Like, don't do this in graphite if I'm doing this in charcoal. You can, and it might work, but you might be robbing yourself of the real experience of achieving the goals. Charcoals are great for end product, but it's also good for coming up with ideas. If I were to do a nice representational oil painting of some fantasy scene or some surrealistic scene or anything, I don't want to just get a photograph and paint from the photograph. You know, if I'm doing my own fine art, my automythical art, I'm going to have a nice value drawing of the scene that I want to paint. Then I'm going to transfer that onto the canvas and start painting in color, and because that's the classical way of painting. I've taught myself. I've learned from others. I know how to do that technique. I did it for when I was a graduate student. So notice I'm using a contour technique where I'm doing the thing that we call wrap. Remember wrap? But I didn't do that when I was doing the reflection of the pear. That was like hatching and cross hatching, and this is the wrap. And it seems to define the little bugger quite well. See that? Kind of works pretty neat, doesn't it? Then I can take my harder pencil. I can wrap up around the perimeter of the pear in the reflected zone, reflected light zone. It's very crucial what we are doing right here. I'm not smudging everything there. I'm using this drawing or shading or mark making technique that we've talked about in mark making. And I'm going to kind of emphasize that for this pear. I'm going to actually show. I want some of those lines to stay there because, frankly, I think it's cool. And we're making a drawing, people. We're not cameras. See that? It's almost like, oh, it's doing. Eh, it's not. We'll do a little bit more. this is our first demo together of drawing a real object, so I really want to kind of wrap our brains around it. I just hope that my shoulder is not in the way. I really think that you're probably getting my beanie in here all the time, and I pray to God I don't have to redo this demo, because I like the Pear, I like what I'm getting. Even correcting my mistakes, you know, it's good that you see that. You know, it's kind of suspicious for you to see a perfect drawing, you know. Like, no mistakes? No human error? Somehow the mistakes can be a part of your strength, because, you know, we're not machines. And so all that stuff can work to our creative advantage. That's kind of a abstract art philosophical statement that I just made. Maybe we could make use of it on our own. So here's the thing. When you're looking at an arrangement like this and your eye keeps on going to, say, this area right here, you have to ask yourself, is it because that's the focal area, meaning that's the part where you want the viewer to go to? Or is it because of something else? Usually it's because of something else. And so what that means is it's a problem area, and that you have to alleviate the visual tension between the contrast of the edge of the Pear and that highlight there, and then how it looks unnatural, you know, it doesn't feel right. And so your eyes are always drawn to that spot. So one of the things you can do is when you finish a drawing and you're not sure if it's done yet, you don't look at it for a day. Go, you know, sleep on it. Come back, put it up. And then if your eye goes to a given area of your composition that you're really not interested in for them to look at, that's considered a problem area, and you need to re-examine that and rework it. And so that's what we're doing here. This is a problem area. We don't want to just have our eyes land there every time we look at the drawing, unless it's a focal area. Like, you know, there's something there you want them to look at, you know, but there's nothing there. So you have to just do this. And that's a little bit, it's a little bit better. We're not done yet. Remember, I want you to have a lot of visual interaction with this video. You're seeing everything in real time, more or less. So I kind of am taking the liberty of just letting the camera roll as we go. Remember to sharpen your utensils before you draw. Have them ready, you know, on your tabouret or your drawing table or wherever, to go at arm's reach and grab it. Have everything out and think consciously. I need to have my vine charcoal, my compressed charcoal sticks, my charcoal pencils, my little paintbrush, my blender and tortillon, my kneaded eraser, my pink pearl eraser, and my chamois cloth, and I think I'm good to go. And then you consciously do that. You take inventory of your materials again before you actually do what's called a drawing session. This is a drawing session. If you really got serious in your art and you want to draw people from life, that's called a session with the model. And you might have a rate with the model, like, okay, I charge you $50 a session. They usually go by an hour, you know. But sometimes they talk in terms of a session. Like, okay, every session I get like $100. I'm not kidding, you know. A session could last 5 hours, you know. So it's like, yeah, okay. And like you can prorate it, like, okay, $50 for a session, or is it gonna be like, you know, $15 per hour? You see. And so you might find yourself paying more per hour as opposed to trying to have them ask you to, you know, instead of the model charging you per session. I'm not saying rip off the model, I'm just saying, you know the difference. we're getting along here pretty good. We're almost done. I mean, it's almost like this. As far as a demo goes, this is done. You know, but you know, I really want to tease this. You know, and let me kind of, you know, zoom in. Well, actually, let's pull out. There you have it. Kind of look around the details. In some ways, this is kind of an inferior demo because of my camera skills. Now I'm using my pinky here. You know, look how I just kind of flirt with the surface like that. And I know that, but I'll do some editing, clean it up a little bit. But okay, by the way, watch this. Ooh, that's kind of neat. It feels kind of neat doing that. You notice I only do that like that. I can do it here too. Don't be afraid, gang. There. Okay. Although we're not done with the black charcoal yet, I want to come in here with the white compressed charcoal and the charcoal pencil. Here's the white compressed charcoal. Put that there. So I'm going to play around with the stem. Now the angle of the light corresponds with the tilt of the stem. So this part of the stem is not as bright. Might be a little bit, but it's, if anything, it's not as, you know, illuminated. There you go. You see that? Now there is a shadow of the stem that creeps onto the pear that I don't have there, but I will put it there. You gotta pay attention to these little details. Now I'm gonna do the hatching technique. I'm sorry, the wrapping technique. It's kind of like hatching is wrapping around the form. You know, like that. So that's a little bit off. I can come back there later. Now this is tricky here. You really want to get into this, folks. Don't rush this. I mean, you gotta. You're studying. You're majoring in this. You're studying. You're exploring. You're doing stuff that people who don't study art would think of doing. You learn more about pears than them, you know. And here's the thing: like, let's say you want to do nature art, and your famous subject matter is the mountain lion. I hate to say it, but you're gonna have to be around some real mountain lions. I don't know how you're gonna do it. Go to the zoo or something. You know, and like me, I'm kind of interested in insects. I almost want to do a series of paintings of insects, make these big paintings of insects. And like the bee. And I would learn about the bee, like how they do that dance, and they use the North and South Pole, you know, the magnetic field of the Earth to help them navigate their dance. I've learned about that. So as you draw or paint the bee, you know about the nature of your subject. And somehow I think that shows up in your work. So you're not just looking at the shape of the bee and you're trying to draw the shape and paint the colors of the bee. You actually know about how bees live. And it's amazing to know your subject, you know. And great artists are like that, you know. Artists know their subject. Some artists are obsessed with their subject. They're fascinated by nature. And so they are naturalists, and they're painting the Niagara Falls or whatever, and like they've been there and they read about the Niagara Falls. They know stories of people drowning in the Niagara Falls. You know, people going into the barrel and riding the Niagara Falls. Like, you want to know all that, you know, and you get into the lore of your subjects, and then you can draw and paint, I think, superior art that way. And I'm trying to, you know, bring this philosophy into the marble here. And like, see how I'm very conservative with the charcoal, the white charcoal. I don't slather it on there like butter. And a lot of us do, and I recommend you don't do that, because it becomes a crutch. See, I already have lit up areas from these. I already have lightened areas from the eraser. I'm enhancing it with the charcoal pencil, like that. See, I can come in here and enhance the shape of our pear. So, and I'm not stopping before I think that I should. I really want you to get the benefit of this demo. I really want you to see what we can do. I really feel that I'm showing you the real stuff. This is the real stuff. Now, if you go to a art academy, like they have some of these in Italy, I think they're a little bit more serious, and they're a little bit more strict. They have a lot more do's and don'ts. Like, you can't do that. Basta, you know, you know, that kind of a thing. And I understand that, you know. But what I did was I gave you the essence of all of that, and I'm confident with the Charles Bard technique and what we're doing with this. I think it's really good. You know, I'm really interested in results, but I'm also interested in it being fun. And I think this is a happy medium between the two. Some of you have never done this before, drawing a real object like this. This is a real object. Like, I'm sharing the space with this pear. I'm not looking at a picture of the pear and drawing it. I'm literally drawing the pear. And it's interesting to think about that. Especially at great artists' work, and before the camera, it's like, wow, they actually were in the same area, or, you know, or room. Especially with like paintings of kings and stuff, like King George and that, or King Louis, the French kings, you know, like those paintings by Fragonard of King Louis. I mean, it's like he was actually in front of that king, you know, and he painted that guy. It's just interesting, you know. Or you have the painting of one of our presidents, you know, any of our presidents, including now, you know, they share the space of that president while they're trying to do his portrait. You know how portrait artists work. That sitter is right there. And I know that we use a lot of cameras, you know. And if I had to do a portrait of of a president or something like that, I'd be taking pictures and trying to do stuff from life, but I'd also be using the photographs. You know, I mean, I'm just admitting to that right now. And so it's a lot of work, you know, being a real portrait painter. My God. So you can see how this is turning out. And the problem is, I'm a surrealist, so I tend to do some really weird kind of things, you know. So I gotta, like, nah, I don't think so. Let's not. I really just want to draw the pear for you using drawing techniques. And I have to tone down the wrapping technique. It's too blatant. You gotta watch out with that. Like here, it's a little bit too loud, but I like it. It serves a purpose, so I'm not going to eliminate it. This is the next chapter of our class. This is like where the plane literally starts taking off the tarmac, I think. We've done the line contour. We've done the measuring and sighting, where you draw from one of my drawings. And then we've done the value scale, the mark making, and then the Platonic solids, the cube, cone, cylinder, and sphere. And so that's just like the preamble to the real experience. And this is it. This is getting there. Now you're getting it. Now you're having it. This is what you want to be doing. You're drawing. Oh, I'm drawing a pear. You're not drawing a cube anymore. Now the thing is, what does this pear resemble? Okay, what I want to do is I want to show you something. Here, I am drawing a sphere. That's one of the main Platonic solids that you see in the pear. But then here is the cone, like the dunce cap kind of a thing. It's a cone. And it kind of goes like that. You see that? It's a sphere and a cone. Then you've got the cylinder. That's right, gang. The stem is a cylinder. So there it is. You got three of the Platonic solids that construct the volume of the and the shape and form of the pear. This is what we have for the still life. Notice how the background is completely different. You can see the reflection of the pear on the marble. You can see on the left that vein in the marble, and the background's relatively different. But I like that gray paper back there because it just helps with my eyes when I'm looking at this and drawing it. Here you see the whole thing, and with the sphere, the cone, and the cylinder to express the basic philosophy of the pear. Now we can zoom in on the actual artwork, and I want to finish it up, going back and forth from charcoal pencil and white charcoal pencil. And to do that, I need my support stick. And I think what I got to do is I got to deal with the edges. I softened them up a little bit. I gotta admit, the shape of the pear is a little bit off. Sometimes you don't even have to worry about that, but actually it's not as... No, actually it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm not gonna worry about it. But there are some things missing. How about the shadow of the stem? It's so much better, right? Sometimes the little things will make or break a drawing. I might even do a little bit of cross-hatching now. See how I'm doing the cross-hatching? Coming down like that. Coming down like this. Not too much though. I hope you got something out of this video. We're almost done with it. I'm going to have you do at least 4 objects. They don't have to be 4 fruit. Some of you might want to do 4 fruit. That's fine. I might have us do like something else though. We'll see. I'm thinking out loud. You're not supposed to, when you're filming, you're not supposed to say anything unless you have it rehearsed, you know. And I do that in terms of the content of the video, but with respect to the drawing, all that stuff is, I know beforehand what I'm going to do before I do it, more or less. But not with what I say. I sometimes don't know what I'm going to say. I just kind of go in there. So I hope I don't make promises I don't keep. In the end, I think we're going to cover everything. You know, in the end, I hope to have a lot of cool videos that you can look at. And so, we're getting our pear almost done. This thing here is a little bit active. It's a little bit too active. What's going on there? I don't think we need that. It looks like a worm's trying to pop out of the pear. You know, I don't know what that is. So with my Q-tip swab, I can tone it down like that. And then here, this is probably a little bit too bright. Now, the reason why there is some brightness there, though, in the first place is because the marble is reflecting the light. The light source is from the left, and then there's light popping up like that. And then this area here that's lit up is because the light is bouncing off of the back wall that has that gray charcoal paper. I sometimes like to use my pinky. Now I kind of like that. See how it's a little bit lighter and it kind of creates this kind of weird shape there? I think that's aesthetically pleasing. And this is what's tricky. I've been doing that for years. I start playing with some interesting things that just make it look nice. That might not be there, but I just like it. And so I kind of tease that stuff in here. Because I'm the artist, I get to do what I think I should do. And remember that for you too. You are the one who's creating this thing. And you might find something that's like, wow, that's an added special thing that's not actually part of the still life. In terms of a stroke or a tone will shift or even a color. And I say, go for it. See how it works. Now again, why is this dragging? This is grabbing my attention. You see right there. So you have this parabolic curve, but in this case it goes like this, boom, and it stops there and it goes like that. That might be a problem because my attention is drawn to it. You see, so we got to fix that. Remember, if you have your attention being drawn to something, it's either because you want people to look at it for a little bit longer than usual, or it's just a mistake. It's a little bit better. And you get to the point where you're actually drawing with your blender. You get really subtle. You really find out that some of your best oil painting artists, they're doing more than just using brushes. Like Rembrandt would use the back of his brush and get effects. You know, and who knows what else we would use, you know, people would use. You know, I'm showing you what I'm using for my drawing. You see that? It's not just using a pencil. When I mean using pencil. Okay, what I have here is the finished version of this pear, and I removed the tape, so you can see the nice crisp frame that's developed, that shows up, and then I decided to sign it. So I hope you've got something out of this demo.